I love Mexico. I want to be able to go travel and all of that, so I am learning as much Spanish as I can. And hopefully, I know the accent will never go away. I just hope that I will get a ton better. Because, like, my mother in law, yes, I struggle so much to talk to her, but she's patient and she helps me if I can't figure out the word, or she just says it in English because she does understand English and she does speak it a bit a lot more now than she's done before, and it's pretty awesome. It's cute though hearing her speak English. I'm sure it's the same way when it comes to hearing me speak Spanish. Sometimes they tell me I sound like a little kid. But sometimes I get like excited to learn new words. Especially like names of animals and stuff like that. Like little ducklings, like baby ducklings. They're called patitos. And ever since I learned how to say ducklings in Spanish, I don't care how big the duck is, I'm gonna call it a patito. I don't care. They're all patitos to me because it sounds so cute. But yeah, she made me some beef jerky, like 3 bags worth of beef jerky, homemade. So good. And then she made us a ton of tamales, which are so amazing. They're like, I probably won't ever find as good of tamales that she makes. I mean, we could probably try to make it when she teaches us, but I don't think we would ever come close because, they were made by her first, So many people are used to hers, but hopefully, if ever we get the chance to make it ourselves, we come close. Because she says she's got to teach us all these things before she passes away, but I hate when they talk about that stuff. I hate it. But I know, it's part of life, but I hate it. But yeah, they were here Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and they left early Sunday. They left around like 7. We couldn't go back to sleep, so we stayed in the living room pretty much all day and watched TV. So that brings me to the next thing. Finally watched the last episode of Handmaid's Tale. And let me tell you, I was bawling. Oh my god. If you haven't seen Handmaid's Tale, this does have some spoilers. So if you don't want to hear it, you don't have to. But if you have watched it, let me know how it made you feel. Sorry. I was sick over the weekend too, so everything is just all okay. So I won't go too much into detail just because spoilers, I don't like to do too much. But like I said, it had me crying so much because, as a lot of people know, the last season is not part of the book, so this is all completely new. So I just kept wondering, because I have read Testaments. I'm probably gonna reread it because I don't remember fully what happens because it's been a while since I read it. But sorry. Sorry. That's my chain of thought. So I know what happens. It's just I didn't know how it was gonna tie from Handmaid's Tale to the Testament. But the way they ended it, they did it so good. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the other episodes weren't as exciting as they can be. But I get why. I get they were saving a lot of that for like close to the end. Man. Usually when I cry during movies and shows, it's like a few tears here and there. No, I was over there, on my side of the couch trying to be as quiet as I can because my husband's over there watching and I don't want him to be like, you okay? Why are you crying so much? But I'm just, oh my god, I can't believe it. And it's just, they ended it so good. I am sad that it is over, but what more could they have done? It had to have ended, so I'm glad that we got to watch that together. And yeah, one of these days I'll probably end up rewatching it maybe closer to when Testaments come out, maybe. I don't know. I am gonna reread the book like I mentioned. That way I can remember what happens, because the last time I read it was when I had been selected to go to jury duty. And so while we were waiting to see if I wasn't selected, I was going there to see if I was going to be selected or whatever it's called. I had to report for jury duty. And so when I was waiting in the hallway to be brought in or whatever, I just sat with my little e-reader and I just read. And I was there for a good 2 to 3 hours. I read that whole thing sitting there. Now, I read it fast. It was a distraction because there was so many people around me. They kept asking me what I was reading. I mean, I get it. They wanted to have conversation because they were bored. Don't get me wrong. I was bored too. So every time they asked me like, oh, what are you reading? I would mention like, oh, I'm reading the Testaments. And they're like, oh, I love The Handmaid's Tale. It's really good. And we would strike up a conversation. And most of the time I wouldn't remember what I read. So I would try to go back, or something happened and I couldn't go back. So it was a mess. So I'm gonna reread that one, but before I reread that one, I didn't know this, but what's her name? The lady that wrote the Hunger Games series, Suzanne Collins. Yes, Suzanne Collins. There was actually a new book that came out this year that is in the same Hunger Games, or like it's part of that, what do they call it, franchise. It's part of that thing. It came out in March of this year. It's called Sunrise on the Reaping. And when my husband told me about this, I was super excited because, one, I love to read. Two, I loved the Hunger Games series. Along with the movies and stuff like that, I enjoyed every single bit of it. And so when he told me about that, he also told me that they are going to do a movie about this. And so I was like, let me jump on and let me read it real quick. And it doesn't seem to be too long of a book. I'm definitely gonna take my time because I don't like to rush through books anymore, because I want to be able to remember what I read, you know, in case somebody talks to me about it. I want to be like, yeah, I read that book, and then talk about it and be like, okay, I'm a liar, I read it but I didn't pay attention, or I'm a liar, I didn't read it, you know. I don't want to be like that. But yeah, I started that book today. I missed reading. It had been a while since I read, like a good while. I think the last book I read was a Stephen King book. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. His favorite book right now of mine is Sleeping Beauties by Owen King and Stephen King. Owen King is one of his sons. They wrote a book together. So good. I was hoping that they would turn this into a show or a movie, because the story is so interesting that picturing it in my head when I was reading it, it's like, I gotta see this in a show or a movie. I have to. It just would be so interesting. But I haven't heard anything about it, hopefully, but who knows? Who knows? Let's see what else. Sorry, I had to burp. Sorry, still burping. Oh, my mother-in-law brought her little chihuahua with her. His name is Chapo. Just like my mom's dog's name is Chapo. He's a cute little dog, very tiny chihuahua. I mean, like, if he was standing right here, I want to say he's like this tall, including legs and body. Maybe a little bit smaller, but maybe right there. And the way he walks, he takes little steps, just like this. Little. But he can run pretty quickly, and he can jump really far. But when it comes to walking, it's just... It's so cute. I love him. The only thing I don't like about him is that he pees on everything. But he is a boy dog. I don't think he's neutered. I don't remember. But even my mom's dog is neutered, and he kind of tries to pee on everything. I guess it's just a boy dog thing. They like to mark their territory. As long as they don't try to pee on me, which they have tried. My mother-in-law's dogs have tried to pee on me to claim me as theirs, and I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna work that way. But yeah, it was very exciting to see them. I was happy to see them, see that they're doing good. Not this weekend, but next weekend, my parents come. Now, my parents, they like to hang out with my brother more than they like to hang out with me, which is totally fine. I don't care. Because I am more of like a person that just wants to stay in her own bubble and nobody come in her bubble. Yeah. And that includes sometimes my parents. But that's a different story. Anyways, but yeah, they'll be here for Father's Day. They'll mainly stay with my brother. They will come and hang out with us. We'll probably cook for them. They're gonna bring my little cousins, but these little cousins think I am their aunt and my husband's their uncle, which I am not gonna correct them. They call me the Safira and, you know, the abuelo. You know. And I don't mind it. I really don't mind it. It is cute to hear them say my husband's name. I know, it's so cute. His little voices. I mean, they're not so little anymore. They grew up so fast. But yeah, I'm excited to see them. The only thing I don't like about seeing my family or my cousins is that they're all getting so much taller than me. So much more taller than me that, like, they could be like 13 years old and they're taller than me. I am gonna be like 34 this year, 33, 34 this year. I don't remember. My husband likes to tell me I'm 60. But it's like, dang, you're that young and you're already taller than me. I stopped growing like at 11, 12. But yeah, because I don't have any actual nieces and nephews because my brother doesn't have any kids. So they are the closest thing that I will get. It is weird to be called a tia, though. It is weird. But I like it. It makes me feel special. But they like my husband more. Because my husband likes to teach them things. My husband talks to them like they're adults and stuff like that. They love hanging out with him. But who doesn't? I like hanging out with him too. Does he like hanging out with me? Who knows? But yeah, super excited about their visit for Father's Day. We'll probably cook them something. They'll probably be here for a little bit. Hang out with my cousins for a little bit. See my brother. Stuff like that. Oh yeah, before we get started, happy Pride Month, my peaches. Hopefully y'all have an awesome Pride Month. Let all the colors fly. Just let it all go. I am hoping to be able to take part in some Pride stuff around where I live, because last year we didn't get to really do it. I don't remember why. I think what they had planned here was canceled or it rained. One of those two, and they never rescheduled it because, you know, some people here I don't like that kind of stuff, you know? I don't care. I love love. That's it. So, happy Pride Month, my peaches. So let's get started on our next thing that we're gonna do. So let me go ahead and pull up this guy's videos. Hold on. Move this over here. Okay, so my husband actually told me about him, and he's actually showed me a few of this guy's videos. And yeah, Sam Onella Academy. And there's so many different videos that we can pick from. So I thought it would be fun to learn about some different history things. So I don't know. Which one should we do? This one seems interesting.
This episode.
This says history worse non-water floods. And if you want to check him out on YouTube, I will definitely put him in the description below. Alright, just fixing something real quick. For some reason, it's not. Oh, okay. That one was right. There we go. Sorry about that. For some reason, it did not want to remove my background. Let me move. Oh, not you. You can come over here. Okay. Let's restart. Okay, so we are going to be watching this video called History's Worst Non-Water Floods. Because I have never heard of this. And this guy on YouTube, Sam Onella Academy, I like the way he explains things because I have seen some of his videos. And so I thought, why not go through some of his videos together and learn some different things like this. Non-water floods, what is that supposed to mean? We'll see.
Episode of Sam Onella Academy is brought to you by Skillshare.
Hey kids, if you've been on Earth for any amount of time, you should know that this place is pretty wet and wild. With water just falling from the sky whenever it feels like it, it's no surprise that floods are among nature's most common means of wrecking humanity's hard work. However, not every flood has been made out of plain old H2O. Today, we're going to talk about some of the few non-water liquid disasters that mankind has endured. January 15th, 1919 was a particularly warm day for Boston, at around 40 degrees Fahrenheit, well above the freezing temperatures of the past week. Men wore their hats a little less snugly, children huddled about the fire a little less.
I will say, I love his animation. They stick figures and their expressions are so hilarious. That this is why I'm like able to pay attention to what he's saying, just because pretty funny.
Closely, and a metal tank containing 2.3 million gallons of molasses decided to collapse.
Oh.
Now, I know what you're thinking. Sam, I've never even held a molasses before. I didn't know there was 2.3 million gallons of it in the world. What was that much molasses doing in one place?
Right.
Well, young grasshopper, as with most things, the answer is alcohol. As the cylinder came tumbling down, it unleashed a delicious brown tsunami that was 25 feet high at its peak. Also, forget everything you know about idioms, because the waves were recorded to have moved as fast as 35 miles per hour. That means you're slower than molasses. Nerd. Add that to the fact that molasses is way more dense than water, and you've got a recipe for some major destruction. Eyewitness accounts of the event describe houses being swept off their foundation and subsequently demolished. The level of damage was comparable to a tornado sweeping through, its path of devastation stretching a half-mile long. Here's a picture of, something. I can't tell what it was supposed to be. All I know is that molasses clearly does not play. That's not all, though. A truck was picked up and chucked into the harbor, a train car got knocked off its tracks, and a bunch of dogs and horses just straight up drowned. Oh, and some people, too. Around 150 were injured and 21 were killed in the disaster. Talk about the sweet release of death, am I right? Ha ha! A couple of reasons these numbers were so high were that A, once you're stuck in something that thick and sticky, you're kind of fucked unless 3 guys with a rope happen to show up. And B, the affected area was so large that 3 guys with a rope would have no way to get to you without getting trapped themselves. As a result, rescuers had to wait several days before the molasses either sufficiently drained out of an area or hardened up enough in the sun and the cold so that it could be walked on without sinking in. After the incident, cleanup was carried out primarily by blasting the streets with salt water, which took many weeks and stained the waters of the Boston Harbor brown for months. Naturally, all the rescue workers and cleanup crew ended up getting molasses all over them, which led to them getting the stuff all over payphones, subway cars, door handles, you name it. It's said that for decades afterwards, residents could still catch a whiff of molasses outside during the summer months, and Boston remains one of Forbes' top 10 stickiest places to this day. Our next tale took place on the evening of June 18th, 1875 in Dublin. A fire had been raging across...
Can you imagine that much molasses coming at you? I mean, I'm sure it tasted good, but can you imagine how scared they were to be drowning in molasses? Oh, I had no idea. No idea. That's pretty crazy. Molasses. Wow. All right. This looks like a fire.
Several blocks of the city for many hours prior, and like many of us do after a long hard day of wreaking havoc, the fire decided to mosey on over to the malt house for a much needed drink. Around 5,000 barrels of whiskey and other social lubricants subsequently burst from the heat, sending a cascade of what is essentially liquid fuel careening out into the street, carrying the inferno on its back wherever it went. Now normally you think people would just run away from the impending danger, but being that this is Ireland, the crowds of people had a better idea. They said, hey, fellow upstanding citizens, why don't we band together and help with the cleanup efforts? So they decided to dispose of the river of beverage running through their neighborhood by hiding it safely away in their stomachs. Some people drank directly from the street, while the classier among them were seen taking off their nasty sweat-filled boots, filling them up and just gulping away. Keep in mind, while today's version is flavored primarily with cinnamon, this Fireball whiskey contained a special blend of spices including ash, street filth, tiny shards of glass and wood, and whatever else you could imagine. But hey, free drinks are free drinks. In the end, 13 people perished as a result of this incident. Was it from the fire? Nope. Smoke inhalation? Drowning? Still no. Unfortunately, though they did boot and they did rally, they forgot to do both at once. As a result, all 13 deaths were actually from alcohol poisoning caused by chugging too much runaway liquor. So let this be a lesson, kids. Don't drink street booze. You have no idea where it's been.
Excuse me? Are you telling me there was a flood of booze and people helped by drinking it all and they forgot to boot and rally, so they died? Okay. Next one.
Just go to a dispensary instead. Moving along, here's another potation inundation, this time on the other aisle. 1814 London was a rapidly growing metropolis, and like all metropolises, it had its fair share of densely populated slums, one of which was St. Giles Rookery. And what better place is there to build a brewery than amongst the impoverished and thirsty? Unfortunately, said brewery apparently got cocky and decided to skimp out on their iron rings that hold up the big beer things budget, leading to one of the vats completely collapsing and and knocking over all the others with it. In total, around 323,000 imperial gallons, or 1.5 million liters of beer were unleashed that day. The flood of
Wow.
ale pushed over the wall of the brewery with the same ease that Jared Kushner pushes old ladies down escalators, gushing out into the streets and totally demolishing multiple homes situated nearby. Good morning, America. I'm reporter Pat Lauer. No relation, don't worry. We're here at the scene of the world's biggest party foul. Ma'am, how does this whole thing make you feel? Ha, don't worry. This isn't the first time alcohol has torn my household apart. In all seriousness, my
Okay.
husband has struck me on multiple occasions. At least 8 people are known to have died as a result of the incident, either from drowning or from having their house dropped on them. In spite of this, nobody was held responsible for the disaster, with courts concluding that the collapse was an act of God. I wish people were that lenient with act of God clauses today, like, alright, here's your coffee, ma'am. Whoops. Jesus Christ, it burns! Yes. That was Jesus Christ who did that. You motherfucker, my legs are fusing together! Hey, God works in mysterious ways. Maybe you were supposed to be a mermaid.
Oh my
who knows?
gosh.
So, I hope the knowledge of these events will serve to empower you in your life going forward. If you find one of your friends trapped in molasses, now you'll say, don't worry, I'll save you. In a couple days. If your street is ever flooded with hard liquor, you'll say, oh boy, time to start chugging. In
No.
moderation, of course. But why stop
No.
there when you can learn a lifetime of practical wisdom with Skillshare.com? Skillshare is an online learning community with over 22...
That was interesting. So there was a flood of molasses and a flood of beer. Okay. Did not know either of those things. I couldn't imagine seeing that happen during this time. Neither. Like, can you imagine being in that time and then like seeing molasses coming at you? Like, no. Or seeing all that beer coming at you. It's like, oh gosh. And then seeing people drinking it from the street or from their boots. No. Must have been weird. All right, let's do this next one. Why produce used to suck? I don't know why. Tell me. Tell me.
Hey kids, you've probably seen this scene in TV or movies at some point. A couple of people end up stranded on a desert island, totally isolated from all civilization. It seems like there's no hope for survival, but then one of them looks 3 feet to the left and, oh my god, it's a tree full of fully grown, plump, delicious, smiling, golden-skinned bananas. Amazing. We're safe for the time being. Hey, don't eat those. They're made of lies. See? Listen, why do fruit exist? For a delicious, nutritious snack for humans and animals alike to enjoy?
Dang, he yeeted him into the
you didn't
sun.
have to go
Wow.
throwing him into the sun like that. You're next, Susan! How did you know my name? I created you. Anyway, as most of you probably know, fruit are a thing because nature figured out, hey, if you put a little bit of deliciousness around your seed, it'll convince some idiot bird or something to carry your baby off to faraway lands, right? But then humans showed up and were like, hey, that's pretty nifty. Listen, is it cool if we selectively breed you for thousands of years to give you horrific deformities to crank up that whole deliciousness part a couple hundred notches? Alright, cool. Let's take a look at bananas, specifically the Cavendish variety that we all know and love. On the inside, we got like 2% seeds, 93% delectable banana meat, and 5% that brown part at the bottom that your mom says is perfectly fine to eat, but you still don't trust. Great for a snack,
Can't
terrible
trust it.
for reproducing efficiently. Meanwhile, check out the thing on the right here. That's Musa acuminata, one of the suspected ancestors of today's nanners. Much smaller and jam-packed
Nanners.
with seeds, with just enough flesh in there to make it worth some smelly primate's time to crack open a yellow one with the boys. Here's another wild type banana, Musa balbesiana. Less sweet, way starchier, harder to get
balbesiana.
into, hella seeds, same shit different day really. But hey, if you stick that boy in the ground, you've got an okay chance of making a new banana tree. You bury a modern banana, all you're gonna end up with is a dirty banana. And not that one club in Miami, I mean an actual dirty
wow.
banana. That's because, like a lot of cultivated fruit, culinary bananas are so inbred and malformed that they can't produce offspring even if they wanted to.
Is with this. Okay. If you say so. I guess something out of a nightmare. It looks like I tried to draw this with my dominant hand because I don't know how to draw. Like, oh my god, that's so scary looking.
So, word of advice for you men out there. If ever a lady points out how poorly endowed you are, just show her this JPEG. She'll say, wow, I didn't realize it was so potent and fertile. You really opened my eyes, thank you. Bananas aren't the only piece of produce to follow this pattern though, not by a long shot. For example, take the watermelon. According to Monsanto, everybody's favorite corporation, the first evidence of human cultivation of the watermelon dates back to Egypt around 5,000 years ago. Back then, they were only 2 inches in diameter, around the
Oh,
size
wow.
of a tennis ball. The flesh was supposedly tough
Didn't
and
know
bitter,
that.
much like that of a tennis ball. Of course,
Hmm.
just as the growth of a delicious green baby takes time, so too did the evolution of the modern watermelon. In fact, even as late as the mid-1600s, watermelons looked way different from what we have today, as shown by this painting by Giovanni Stanchi.
Ew.
Notice the thicker rind, the larger seeds, and the weird segmentation on the inside. Definitely a cooler still life subject, but ultimately inferior as a
It doesn't look
summertime snack.
appealing.
How about vegetables? Tell me, do you enjoy cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale, collard greens, broccoli, or cauliflower? I mean, I guess I like broccoli and cauliflower. The rest
Yeah,
are kind of
same.
gross, though. Wrong!
Yeah.
All 6 of these vegetables are actually the same thing. That means you like them all. That's not how that works. I'll be good. Anyway, these veggies are all just cultivars of the same species, Brassica oleracea, otherwise known as wild cabbage. Every part of the plant is edible to some extent, but there's not much of it to go around. So a bunch of different people throughout history said, alright, what if we just take one specific part of the plant and go fucking insane with it? And that's what they did. Those who bred for giant leaves got kale, going for huge dense flower buds gets you broccoli, juicy engorged lateral leaf buds equal Brussels sprouts, etc. Speaking of segues, let's check out eggplants. The OG eggplant was first domesticated in India, where it can still be found in the wild today. It looks nothing like an eggplant though. They actually resemble little green berries the size of grapes. The only thing it seems to have in common with the classic purple eggplant is how little both of them have in common with an egg. However, if we add the RGB percentage values of their color and merge their shapes, we do get what looks approximately like an egg. So I guess that solves that mystery. This whole transformation really is a testament to man's greatness though. That's like starting out with a frog and selectively breeding them until you end up with Grimace from McDonald's lore. Speaking of which, did you know Grimace used to be evil and have 4 arms? This is a real thing. I'd like to think that when they lopped off his extra limbs, all his evil energy went with him, and now there's just 2 plump purple cylinders scampering around the countryside waiting to pull unsuspecting kids under ball pits, never to be seen again. That's just my McDonald's headcanon though. Anyway, back to whatever we were talking about. Next is corn, or sorry, maize. I call it corn like a normal person. If it was supposed to be called maize, these would be called mazes. Obviously, that's like the perfect opportunity, but they're not, so put an etymological sock in it. Or stocking. Anyway, I was totally expecting old corn to look like those baby corns you find in Chinese food and literally nowhere else. Turns out those actually are just baby corns. One suspected ancestor of corn is known as Teosinte, which looks like this. Gee whiz, Sam, that sure does look like garbage. Good eye, Billy. That's because it was garbage. Whereas modern corn has a kernel count in the hundreds, Teosinte only has 5 to 12, with each one being encased in a hard shell that's basically impossible to get into short of boiling it or chipping a tooth. The fact that people decided to domesticate it in the first place makes sense once you realize that most grains are basically the same thing. But honestly, that just makes me wish people figured out how to turn a piece of wheat into a big chunk of whatever to gnaw on. This whole thing disappointed me so much that I actually moved it to the top of my list of reasons not to visit the Mayans if I ever get a time machine. Nonetheless, as you can see, human endeavor can accomplish amazing things. And just as a few thousand years of selective breeding can turn this into this, a few hours of learning a week can turn you into, you know, a more talented and interesting version of you. And what better way to do that than with Skillshare.com? Skillshare is an online learning community with over 22,000.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so we will do one more of his videos, Ben and Controversial Foods. But as you can see, why I like watching him, he's pretty funny. And for me, he gets straight to the point. Straight to the point. I do like it when people explain things to me, but I like for you to like get to the point first and then explain to me after, because that's when I prefer to have questions. Sorry, replying to somebody in the chat. As you see, their headphones are not working, so I wanted to be nice and reply to them. let's go ahead and see what this next one is about, and then we will talk some more. And then, yeah, I don't know. Let's see what we get into.
Hey Majors, so I'd like to start off with a little biology lesson. When a species finds itself living on an island, it can start to evolve in strange ways based on
That
the different
Nick.
pressures applied by the new environment. This is called island syndrome, and while it can manifest in a lot of ways, the biggest driving force is often a lack of predators. For example, the dodo lost its ability to fly since there was nothing to flee from. The St. Kilda field mouse got twice as big since it no longer had to hide. And with no one around to bully them, the Sardinians started putting maggots in their cheese. Meet Kazumartsu, literal translation, rotten cheese. It's made by taking a perfectly good wheel of pecorino and letting a special type of fly lay eggs in it. The fly babies then work to partially digest the cheese, rendering it goopy and wet and maybe quite tasty and worm-filled. Now, cheese as a concept is already quite suspect. It's clotted milk that you fill with bacteria and mold and let sit for a while. But cheese is safe and delicious. Cheese is my friend. I trust cheese. So my guard would be down around Kazumartsu. I've learned to look past a cheese's childhood. Strange upbringings are what give them their character. But it turns out, those maggots are still alive, and if you don't chew well enough, they can cause enteric myiasis, which is a fancy term for fly larvae living in your intestines. Symptoms are similar to food poisoning, except with the added psychic pain of knowing that, again, your bowels are full of squiggly new friends. It's for this reason that
Somebody with anxiety, I don't know if this was the best video to click on, but I'm gonna keep watching it because now I'm interested.
Kazumartsu is banned in the EU and elsewhere. A black market still exists, which is wild, and it's not a small one. In 2019, the illicit Kazumartsu trade was estimated to be worth 2 to 3 million euros annually. Personally, I would just do it prohibition style, like definitely don't put these fly eggs on this sumptuous wheel of pecorino. But if you do, you absolutely shouldn't keep it warm and damp for a week. But although it's traditional to leave the larvae alive when you eat your mag and cheese, some consumers still prefer them dead, shockingly. In that case, one puts the cheese in a sealed bag, and when the maggots run out of oxygen, they writhe around and fling themselves all over the place. This is heard as a distinct pitter-patter against the walls of the bag, and when the sound stops, the contents are ready to eat, like popcorn. Shark fin soup is one most of us have heard about already, mostly in reference to its effect on shark populations and the wastefulness that goes into making it. Until recently, though, I never looked into the nature of the dish itself. I figured, right, the fins are just the only part of the shark worth eating. Big whoop, it's probably not much different from, like, swordfish. Apparently, though, I had it backwards. Shark fins aren't even meat. They're made almost entirely of cartilage and collagen. They are the last part
that
we
makes
should
sense.
be eating. That's why it's only made into soup, because without being soaked in broth, it has zero flavor or nutritional value on its own. Their only redeeming quality is their unique mouthfeel due to how stringily the collagen grows, in structures called ceratotrichia. The texture has been described as somewhere between chewy and crunchy, which I find describes most things, actually. Other adjectives present on Wikipedia include snappy, gelatinous, and sinewy. The exact sensation of
I don't know
eating
about
this
that
substance
texture.
remains a mystery to me, and the unintended side effect of all this research is that I now really want to try it. Like, it's a big trade. I've
I
got to
mean,
be
I
the one
might
that's wrong.
try
There
it,
is
but I may
imitation
not
shark
like
fin
it.
soup available, but I've already decided that it's not nearly as good. So I've come up with a compromise to this controversy. Everyone on Earth gets just one bite. Say there's 10 bites to a fin, 4 fins to a shark, 200 million sharks die, sure, a necessary casualty, but then we can end the practice forever. All done. You can finally rest, Mr. Ming. Come here, baby. Aww. Aki. What? Aki. Where? Aki. The aki is a fruit originally from West Africa, which is most commonly associated with Jamaican cuisine, where it appears in such dishes as aki and saltfish. These alien kidneys here are called the arils, and they're the only part of the fruit that's actually eaten. The flavor is on the savory side, being
Fruit?
described as kind of nutty or bean-like. What makes the aki controversial, though, is the effects it can cause when prepared improperly. If the arils are allowed to completely ripen, they're harmless, but if you eat them too early, or don't thoroughly clean off all the non-aril stuff, they can cause Jamaican vomiting sickness. This disease doesn't sound real. It sounds like it belongs next to Eastern sweats and Tangerian bone grindings, but that's actually an official term, and as for symptoms, it does what it says on the tin. Plus maybe death. While aki-based products aren't
Ooh,
outright illegal in the United
that's
States,
scary.
they are very tightly regulated, and the raw fruit itself cannot be imported. So if you're American and want to try it, your options are fully cooked canned aki or going to Florida where a few people grow it domestically. Next we have bird's nest soup. This is another one that I've vaguely heard of, and for years I just assumed the name was a playful metaphor metaphor, like ants on a log or shit on a shingle. Turns out, nope, this dish contains an actual bird nest, not like a pile of twigs like I was picturing, but rather a specific type of nest only made by certain species of swiftlets. These nests are mostly made out of mucins, which are a set of proteins that, among other things, serve to thicken all those wonderful secretions our bodies make. There's a little bit in human saliva, a little bit more in mucus, and in swiftlet saliva, look out, pal. So all the swiftlet does is it finds a nice wall, starts laying out fat strings of slobber, which dry, and eventually she's got a nice place to roost. That is, right up until some gourmand says,
Today I crave bird spit. You can keep the eggs though.
And they then reconstitute it back into its original gelatinous texture. Unfortunately, these nests can't enter the US since, believe it or not, eating bird saliva is a great way to catch bird flu. And now the time has come to speak of the ortolan. The ortolan is a kind of bunting, which is a sort of passerine, which is a type of bird. They're birds. Like many animals, they have a long history of being eaten by the French. But what separates the ortolan from your average squab or pheasant is the unique way in which it is prepared and eaten. They're typically caught with nets and kept in the dark, which causes them to overeat for some reason. Once it's about twice as fat, the entire bird is then thrown into a container of brandy, alive, and sealed in. While this serves to marinate the creature, it also drowns in the process, thereby killing one bird with no stones. The ortolan is then roasted, plucked, and presented whole to the consumer, who inserts the carcass into their mouth, feet first. As they chew, one hand continues holding the bird's head, while the other picks out the larger bones. This whole ritual is usually performed with a towel or large napkin over one's head. There's a few explanations for the purpose of the towel. Some say it's just there to keep the aromas in, while others say it's there to,
I've seen
quote,
this
shield
on
from
TV.
God's eyes the shame of such a decadent and disgraceful act. Yeah, this one I'm okay with not trying, actually. Notable fans of this
Yeah, I'm
dish
okay.
include, not joking, Bill Cosby and the guy who invented the lobotomy. To be part of that social club. Our mission is to eat
No,
birds
thank you.
whole and then make people not remember things. Killing ortolans was banned across the EU in 2007, not for any ethical reason, but because French people did this so much that the entire ortolan population was threatened. Thankfully, as of 2018, their conservation status is under least concern, so hopefully the French can get back to it soon. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Till next time, I'm Salmonella, and thank you for watching.
Well, that was fun. We learned some different things. I'll do this one.